So what? I'm just supposed to accept that someone willingly went to Ohio? That doesn't make any sense. Hey, Commish, what's happening? No. I told you 100 times I will not vote to put a team in Mexico. Look, I know you have this whole hockey in the South thing that you're trying to continue to push, but I just think it's a step too far. No update on the Bergeron or Krejci news. I know, 4.7 million cap, but we'll get it under. We'll take care of it. Trust me, I'm not going to be one of those teams that gives up an asset just to get rid of a contract. Like, imagine how fucking stupid you would have to be to have no idea about your cap situation, keep bringing players in, and then be forced to offload a superstar just because you weren't paying attention. Yeah, I know. It would be the dumbest thing ever. No. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, even you get it. No, don't find me. I'm kidding. Okay, I'll go. Okay. Funny guy. Anyway, yeah, like I was saying, there's no one who would willingly go to Ohio. You're a real dick, you know that? I'd argue if it weren't so true. Low quality fans of a high quality any team. It's free agency. We're spreading the love. There's the Bruins channel. I get that. I get it. But we're going to talk about a bunch of different teams. Winners, my top 5 winners and my top 5 losers of the free agency start. We're going to bleed a little farther back towards the draft on some of them, but that's fine. We're going to kind of gray out the rules, but it's fine. But we're going to talk about a bunch of different teams. I'm going to be honest right now. This is where I'm going to see a huge, just a drop off of viewership. Like, it tells you where the viewers stop watching. The Bruins are not in my top 5 winners. Shocking. I know. They're also not my top 5 losers. Also shocking. Is anyone surprised by that? No one should be surprised by that. But we're talking winners and losers. We're going to start with the winners because the losers are so much more fun to talk about, and I want to save that for later. Our biggest loser is such a loser that I kind of feel like it should lose fans for it. We're going to get there, and most of you are going to agree with me. I guarantee it. It's a low-call guarantee. I'm usually not wrong. There have been moments where I'm not wrong. Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. Twitter, Discord, Patreon, fucking Short Shift Pod. Short Shift Pod should not be 4th on that list. Jesus. Winners. Let's talk about them. This was in a league that had a flat cap for a little while and then just recently saw a $1 million bump. The risk aversion was setting in. I felt like a lot of teams held back at times and didn't want to take a risk. But instead of that, we saw a literal record amount of money thrown around on day one of free agency. Almost $1 billion, if I have my numbers right. That is a substantial amount of money. If any of you watching this have $1 billion and can go, that's not that much, give me some. Not asking. Just give me some. God, please. All right, now I'm asking. But let's get to the list, shall we? My top 5 winners. At number 5, we have the Detroit Red Wings. What did they do? David Perron, 2 years, $9.5 million. Andrew Kopp, 5 years, $28 million. Dominic Kubalik, 2 years, $5 million. And Ben Sharat, 4 years, $19 million. Look, the Red Wings had to do something kind of tough this year. You need to bridge a year or two to get closer to competitiveness so that there's no sort of frustration for your young guys as they start to get towards, all right, time to sign new contracts, things like that. Are you going to lose anybody? They still have a ways to go, but it's time to start showing that the rebuild is over, really over. This last year was a great step. I thought the Perron signing in a vacuum was very, very good. I thought the money was perfect for him. It's only 2 years. There's not a lot of risk. Same thing with Kubalik. Kopp, 5 years, $28 million, maybe a tad rich. But I think, regardless of how things work out in that 5 years, he has the talent to at least be serviceable for that kind of money. And when the younger guys are coming into their roles, he will be on his way out in a year or two. It won't be something where you're worried about this guy strapping you down. The biggest worry here is the Ben Sharat deal. I thought the other ones were so good that you could offset that. I have not been on the Sharat train since way before the trade deadline. People kept wanting to talk about how someone was going to overpay him. This is an overpayment. I'm surprised the Red Wings did this. Seider deserves better as a partner. Defensemen are expensive in free agency. Sharat probably deserves to be on a team. I mean, he definitely deserves to be on a team. But man, that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of years for a guy that I'm not sold on. Other than that, though, I think this does a great job of bridging them into that next generation of competitiveness. It's only going to look good a few years from now. Number 4, the Ottawa Senators. This feels a little cheap because this really isn't about free agency. This is about them removing Matt Murray off their books for a third and a seventh while only having to retain 25% and dunking on the Toronto Maple Leafs at the same time. Good for them. It will only be good for them if they continue to weaponize the cap space they've built with it. If they are not spending the money that they've just saved and they gave up assets for it, I'm looking at ownership going, you fucking assholes. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, but it is certainly something that they need to take into account because it just looks bad to give up assets when you're not even worried about using that money. These teams are very wealthy, and that family is still very wealthy. I'm just saying. They also, the big reason they're winners, though, the trade at the draft to get DeBrincat for a first, a second, and a third, even better. Just a brilliant trade to bring in a bona fide star at 24 years old. You hope that he doesn't walk, but this was such a massive win for them. That team improved vastly. They're in a similar position as the Red Wings, although they got there a little differently, where they need to bridge into this competitive team that they need to be in a couple of years that's going to stay a contender for a long time. That's the trick, right? You don't want to have a one-year flame out. The Norris signing was also a big part of that. He gets 8 years for a lot of money. I think that's actually going to work in their benefit because I'm high on Norris. I think he's going to be a great player. And I think a 2-year deal would have resulted in a more expensive 8-year extension when it was all said and done. He's going to have a bunch of years where he looks underpaid, especially when the cap starts going up again this next couple of years. There should be a jump in the next 4 to 5 years. I'm telling you, there really should be a jump. At number 3, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning. People are probably going to raise their eyebrow at this. Because what did they do? They re-signed Sergachev 8 by $8.5 million. Cirelli 8 by $6.25 million. And Chernak 8 by $5.2 million. As well as added some nice depth, low-risk contracts in Hayden Fleury, Ian Cole, and Nemesnikov. I like all of it. And again, this is going to be a team that everyone looks at those big contracts and goes, holy shit. That is a ton of money that you just saddled onto these 3 guys. 3 guys that are going to be part of their core for a long time. And they're paying attention. These things are 10%, 8%, and 7% of the cap right now. I believe somewhere around there. In 4 years, that should be more like 7%, 5%, 4%. Somewhere in that ballpark. By the time those guys are hitting their early 30s, those contracts are going to be dwarfing and dwarfing and dwarfing as far as percentage of the cap that they're affecting. They know that's the part of their next core. They have to make sure they stay competitive. You don't want to be the team that then falls right back into obscurity. They did what they needed to do. 2 cups, no one's going to be sad. They sucked for the next 10 years. Their fan base would still be like, that was so worth it, though. Back-to-back cups. But you don't want to. No one wants to. I actually really like the moves. And in years when people are like, look at the cap strapped Tampa Bay Lightning, they've handled it, man. They know how to handle cap constraints. Take that as a joke if you want to. I'm not worried about them. I thought that was excellent cleaning up for them. At number 2, you get the Columbus Blue Jackets. And there's a reason they're number 2 and not number 1. Because they did something so incredibly rare. I don't remember the last time a team did this. They signed both the worst contract of free agency day 1 and the best. That's pretty fucking rare. The worst contract is the Eric Goodbranson. 4 years, $16 million. There is an argument that Goodbranson was one of the worst players in the league last year. Remember, if you're the worst player in the NHL, you're still pretty fucking elite when it comes to your worldwide hockey skill. So good for you. But amongst your peers, I am sorry, friend. Bad. This guy was horrendous. And they gave him 4 years at $4 million a year. I saw that and went, that's going in the loser column. And it would. But we're going to do something a little different. Instead, we're just going to say, Eric Goodbranson, you're in the winner column. Get that bag, boy. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, for signing Johnny Hockey, you're in the winner column. $9.5 million, 7 years. That's a nice little deal. Not as big as he could have gotten. There's speculation about there. There's speculation that the price to pay for Calgary was even higher. But he wanted to get to the East Coast, and we're going to talk more about him in the loser column. Trust me. But excellent deal for Columbus. And it's also a huge win for small market teams. We often talk about teams that free agents just don't want to go to. And you don't win the cup with free agents. They help, but you win the cup by homegrown guys usually. But this is important. The small market teams realize that with a little bit of leverage, they can grab those players too, as long as they're willing to spend. And you gotta love a front office that when they got the call, because no one was more surprised than they were, when they got the call, they went, we'll make it work. Sign him on. We'll make it work. They don't care what they will have to give up to keep him because he is an elite game breaker. Does this make them a playoff contender? No, not yet. But during that contract, they certainly could be. They need to make some good moves. If you're a Columbus fan, though, I'm betting you're feeling pretty damn good. Sorry about the Goodbranson stuff, though. That is just awful. Good for you guys. And your number one winner of free agency, day one at least, and a little bit before, is the Carolina Hurricanes, unfortunately. So for any Bruins fans, I apologize for that. Not only did they still get a productive Brent Burns at a 66% salary, but they had to give up a middling prospect in a third for him. That fills a massive need for them, an offensive-minded defenseman to go next to Slavin, who's amazing in his own zone. So that's going to be a pair made in heaven. They gave up Tony DeAngelo they let him walk and brought in Brent Burns for barely anything. Huge. That's a great start to the offseason. Doesn't even come close to getting Max Pacioretty for free because Vegas has put themselves in such a hole. Vegas, the crafty, clever, star-hunting team that they are, gave up Pacioretty for literally nothing. And the Canes were the team with enough space to be able to grab him. That's a huge win. Also, they got my boy Kasha on the cheap. Another low amount of money deal for Kasha because people are worried about his concussion history. That's still just such a win. I think he's so good when he can stay on the ice, especially the middle six, bottom six role. That team, we could be talking about day one of free agency as the day that they won the cup. We really could. Next year, if that's a healthy team, that's a scary, scary team. So they're the biggest winner of the day. Who cares about winners? Winners or losers? Let's talk about losers because the losers make us all feel better, which makes us winners. Yeah. You won't be surprised to see some of these losers are on the opposite side of the winners. Just guys who made deals with the winners or whatever it may be. But here's the thing about the losers this year. There wasn't a ton of money. There was a ton of money thrown around, but there wasn't a ton of money in terrible, terrible contracts. Franchise-altering contracts. This is more about the teams that lost out on guys and couldn't recover. And we're going to start at number 5 because they can't be the biggest loser. The Calgary Flames. What did they do? Well, they signed a bunch of depth pieces while they waited for Gaudreau's decision. And then Gaudreau left. And then they were left just standing there. Standing there with a check. They are definitely going to be in on Kadri. I'm sure they're working on that. But they went from, hey, we are a conference finalist team potentially, maybe even a Stanley Cup contender, to we just lost our biggest game changer. I've seen mixed reactions from Flames fans. Some are very hurt and are acting out in that passion. I'm not going to hold it against them. But there's some pretty nasty stuff going around. But I get it. I don't want to judge them too harshly. But imagine you're them. And you're a stud. Your guy, your face of the franchise. Well, maybe face of the franchise. I guess there's a debate on that. But he leaves for Columbus, Ohio for less money. It says something. It says something. You know? And it doesn't say anything good. Yes, he wanted to be closer to family. I get that. But it says something. And now you guys are left trying to pick up the pieces. And you don't know if you're even going to be back where you were last year. It's going to be really hard to be a contender when you lost that kind of firepower. So, massive difference for them. You hope that they're able to pick up a couple of the pieces in free agency and make up for some of that production loss, but that's a loser if I've ever seen one. At number 4, we have the Florida Panthers. What do? Well, they signed a bunch of depth and watched all their acquisitions walk away. Giroux, gone. Sharat, gone. Marchment wasn't a midseason acquisition, but he was their star depth guy that really had a nice story, came into his own. Boom. Walking out the door to Dallas. What makes them a loser here is the assets they gave up and the fact that they were cap strapped and weren't able to really keep anyone. The Sharat thing, they're not really going to miss all that much, in my opinion. But they flamed out in the playoffs. They watched their guys walk away. And now they're sitting there going, okay, well, we're super tight against the cap. We potentially have more work to do. And they don't know who to bring in. There's not a lot of options. Now, look, they're still going to be a good team next year. But this was a pretty significant blow. Mixing that Bobrovsky contract still staring them in the face. I don't know, man. There's some bad juju over there right now, especially with the way they went out in the playoffs. That fan base has got to be nervous. You built into something. You were a juggernaut offensive team this year, and now, after just a couple days of free agency, you're left with some serious questions. Some questions that you were hoping to get answered that were already giant question marks from the playoffs. That's a loser. That's a loser all day. And number 3, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, another loser. What did they do? They traded future considerations for a 3rd, 7th, and Matt Murray at 25% retained. Here's how I feel like this happened, right, for most fans, because this is how it happened to me. I saw the news on Twitter, chuckled, kept scrolling. I thought it was satire. Saw another person post it or retweet it, saw the check mark and went, wait, hold on, looked at it, and the more I thought about it, the more I said, oh no. And then I thought about it some more. Oh no. Oh no. No. What are you doing? They also signed some depth bottom pieces. Samsonov, Gaudet, Abe Kubel. I actually like that signing. But they're a loser because cap strapped. They let Campbell walk, and I get it. 5 years is a huge risk to give to Campbell, who's really unproven, and the fan base was not happy with second half of the year. But you're going to put all your eggs in a Matt Murray basket? I thought the Samsonov signing was actually pretty decent for like a low risk, high reward kind of guy, hoping he can shake off that capital stench. I don't love the odds of that, but it's there. I like the signing at least for a little bit of chance. But Matt Murray's been bad. And I know there's some micro stats that are like, hey, he's actually not that bad. If you take out his worst game last year, it all bumps up. I don't care. He's been pretty bad. There's a 20% chance he looks good this year. And this all goes away. They go to the 3rd round. Everyone's happy. But there's like a 50% chance that he completely flames out and drags them down. And then it's like a 30% chance that he's okay and they might win a round. I mean, in a make or break year, I don't want to say that Dubas will have his head roll if this doesn't work out, but he will, right? If you're a fan of that team and Murray sucks halfway through the season, you are looking at Dubas going, you're fucking fired, dude. Someone better be taking notes on who to draft next year because you're fired before next year's draft. That's brutal. They put themselves in this situation, much like Sweeney has with our cap strap situation. But they made their bed, and they're going to lie in it. And they gave up assets, not a lot, 13 spots in a draft, to drop Mrazek, and then use the money to bring in Matt Murray. Championship pedigree, or 2, right? 2 rings. I did not flip you off. I didn't mean to. Brutal. Loser. At number 2, you have the Vegas Golden Knights. They signed Riley Smith to a 3-year, $15 million contract extension, and they traded Pacioretty for cap relief. We've been over that, but there is a fun little tweet that's been going around. The Knights gave up a first, second, and third for Tatar. And then Tatar, Suzuki, Norlinder for Pacioretty. And now Pacioretty for nothing. And I see people arguing they didn't give him up for nothing. They needed the cap relief, sure. And also, you give up those assets for his performances over the past couple of years. Right. If you're spending a bunch of assets that are going to shorten your window of competitiveness, but enhance how likely it is you win a Stanley Cup, then you did it for nothing if that guy walks after a couple of years or gets sent away for nothing. Like, that's how that works. If I traded every first-round pick for the next 4 years for Connor McDavid, and then in 4 years' time, we went to the Stanley Cup final once and to the conference final twice, but we didn't win a cup, and then Connor McDavid leaves. As a fan, yes, very fun to watch my team get that far and cheer for them and everything. But deep down, I'm still going, we didn't even get a cup out of that, and we're going to suck for the next 10 years. I think that's part of it. Maybe that's a little of an exaggeration, but come on. That is brutal cap management. And Vegas is still going to be good next year, but they went from the smartest fucking team during the expansion, robbing everyone blind, building a team that no one understood what they had, and they still had a ton of assets. And they have ripped it apart. I said a little while back that I'm worried about Vegas. Worried about chemistry, which they will not have as they continue to do this. And I'm worried about them being able to maintain a competitive level. And in a couple years, I think I'm going to be very, very correct. I don't see them winning a cup in the next year. I don't see them doing the next 2 years. And in 3 years, I bet they could be pretty bad. We'll see. But there is definitely concern over in that building. And I bet players aren't super stoked about it either. Our top loser, our biggest loser, is Philadelphia Flyer fans. Not the team, the fans. And I don't mean the fans are doing stuff to make them losers. I mean, they lost. You guys lost. And there is no way you disagree with me. There's just no way. You know what? No, I'm going to have him do it. Hold on 1 second. Hey guys, low quality Flyers fan here. I don't really see a lot of time in these videos. Chuck Fletcher. Every report is coming out. Every report. And just saying that Johnny Gaudreau wanted to go to the Philadelphia Flyers. You know, Philly is an hour from where he grew up, I think. The town he's from, at least. Maybe not where he grew up, but where he's from. An hour. Yeah. Philadelphia, he wanted to be closer to his family, and he wanted to go there. The latest report came out saying that he couldn't believe that the Flyers weren't in on him. He just didn't believe it. Chuck Fletcher said we would have had to move a bunch of money. Would have had moved a bunch of contracts, and that would have been difficult. Basically, Chuck Fletcher said, hey, I would have had to do my job. And my job is hard. That's what he said. Fuck you, Fletcher. Fuck you. Philly's fan base is devoted. We are devoted. This shit matters to us. We show up to the games. We cheer on our team. We would rather go to a Flyers game with a bag on our head, making a joke about the team, than not go at all. We give a shit. And you said, I don't want to do my job. You gave up a first-round pick for Ristolainen and then extended him for $5 million. You decided to use cap space on Tony DeAngelo. Again, $5 million. You signed Nick Delorier for $7 million over a 4-year span. But we didn't have the cap to sign Johnny Gaudreau, who wanted to come here and would have come here for what I assume is at least the same as what Columbus paid him, which is 9.5, which is a deal for a player like that. We're the biggest losers because Chuck Fletcher has made us the biggest losers. We didn't do anything wrong, except for have a stupid front office. Disappointing isn't, it's not the word. I should lead a march, and we'll all wear one steel-toed boot, and each one of us gets to kick Chuck Fletcher right in the balls. That is what Philly fans should do. That's what I'm going to do. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. You take back over. I'm going to do it. Yeah, so biggest loser, clearly. I feel bad for him. How could you not? He basically came out and said, hey, we can't, I don't want to do my job. How do you support a front office like that? There are fans who go too far and say, I've seen, perfect example, I've seen Blackhawks fans, not all of them, don't get all ruffled up. Seen Blackhawks fans say, I can't support this team anymore because they're going into a rebuild. First of all, do I think the Blackhawks are doing the rebuild very strangely and not getting enough assets back for their guys? Oh yeah, absolutely. Blackhawks fans probably shouldn't be saying that this is the straw that broke their back when, you know, the Kyle Beach stuff happened not too long ago. That's a little weird. But anyway, those are the kind of fans where I'm like, all right, calm down. Like, you can still support this team. It's not, a rebuild shouldn't make you not want to support the team anymore. A front office that does this, I mean, I'd be one of those people that's like, fire him. I would sign petitions. I would send mail. I don't give a crap. This guy has